but simple tricky is I'm not very careful when I'm taking out or putting back in.
Na 𝐥𝐞𝐻 𝐁𝐡𝐮𝐭𝐚. Welcome to the 54th session of Bhutan Dialogues. My name is 𝐤𝐡𝐻 𝐁𝐡𝐮𝐭𝐚. I serve as the president of Loden Foundation. Our theme for today is why we leave and why we must return. Insights into Bhutan's largest diaspora. Our theme for today is so important, and there could not be a more fitting theme for today, considering the surge of Bhutanese, both young and old, trying to eke out their livelihoods in Australia, United States, Canada, or the Middle East. According to Bhutan Times, more than 30,000 Bhutanese are working and studying in Australia alone. Yet, beneath this alarming lump sum figures lies individual stories, narratives, reasons, and goals, some unique to the person and many similar to each other. To gain some first-hand insights from the Bhutanese diaspora themselves, our panelists for today's dialogue include individuals who are currently living in Australia, as well as individual who is back to Bhutan from Australia. Allow me the pleasure of introducing our panelist. Ms. 𝐷𝗵𝘂𝘁, the former assignment editor and bureau chief for 𝐁𝐡𝐮. She is the first woman president of the Journalists Association of Bhutan. She completed a master's in international journalism from the University of Western Australia in Perth. Mr. 𝐴𝐿𝐴 𝐁𝐡𝐻, who is a PhD candidate at the University of Sydney, served as the museum consultant at the Bhutan Foundation, deputy director at Reuters Textile Academy, and project manager at the 𝐥𝐴𝐦𝐿 Charitable Trust. Last but not the least, we have Mr. 𝐺𝐵𝑚𝑖𝑡𝐻𝐻, an ardent blogger. He's a 𝐦𝗲𝘀 International University gold medalist in Masters in History. He served with the Ministry of Education as a teacher for the last 12 years, serving communities as far as Laya and 𝗕𝗵𝑃𝑒𝑒𝑒. He recently moved to Canberra. Our host is Mr. 𝐷𝗀𝐻 𝐺𝐿𝐴. He is the founder and CEO of Bhutan Food, One Young World Peace Ambassador, European Development Day's Young Leader 2022, and he serves as one of the Loden Board of Trustees. Welcome to all. Before we start the conversation, some house rules. There will be a Q&A session afterwards, and I'd like to request the questions to the panel be kept short and to the point in the interest of allowing time for more questions and for in-depth responses, rendering the Q&A session a meaningful exchange. Our online viewers may drop their questions in the chat box. The Bhutan Dialogues team will compile the questions and read them out during the Q&A session. Thank you, and 𝐷𝗵𝘂𝘁 𝐁𝐡𝐻. The floor is yours, 𝐷𝗀𝐻.
Thank you, Mr. President. With that, 𝐴𝐿𝐴, greetings to all our viewers joining us from around the world for the 54th session of Bhutan Dialogues. Bhutan Dialogues, led by the Loden Foundation, is a forum for right speech and mindful listening, where we discuss and deliberate issues and ideas in development. Our topic today, insights into Bhutan's largest diaspora, I think is of national significance. It is evident from the amount of sign-ups we have had for the virtual attendance. Many journalists have written about this, continue to write about this. Many opinion articles have come up. Bhutanese social media is abuzz addressing one part or another of this issue. And I think we have reached a point of critical mass where it must be addressed in an attempt, a genuine, heartfelt attempt to understand this issue. So today, I have with me three panelists, 𝐴𝐿𝐴 𝐁𝐡𝐻, 𝐷𝗵𝘂𝘁𝑒𝑚𝑎, and 𝐺𝐵𝑚𝑖𝑡𝐻𝑗. Thank you, La, for making the time and accepting our invitation to join this panel. Now, all our panelists have lived in Australia or are living in Australia right now. So before we delve into the core of our conversation, can you please tell us more about your experience, your connection to Australia, so our viewers may be able to understand where you all are coming from individually? So an open question to our three panelists, like if in any order you can begin.
As a only woman panelist here, I think I'll take this opportunity. Good evening, good morning, and good afternoon to everyone watching us live or following us live from different parts of the world, following different time zones. I am 𝐸𝐶𝐻, like Sangye and Ngawang introduced. I am a 40-year-old woman, a mother of two, and I have pursued this Australian dream for the last 3 or 4 years. I chose to come to Australia at a time when many young journalists in Bhutan, pinned their hope on me and elected me as the president of the Journalist Association of Bhutan. I could not serve much, and I am really sorry for all people who believed in me and elected me as the president of JAB. This guilt I will have to live with forever. I really feel bad about it, but those close to me know why I left. I guess, and I am right now pursuing my Master's of Philosophy, and I'm researching on politics and language in Bhutan. Thank you.
Kingal.
Plus, Kuzambula, everyone. My name is 𝐤𝐴𝐻𝐿 𝐁𝐡𝐮𝐭𝐚𝐧𝐞, as the moderator mentioned. I lived in Canberra. My wife and I, in fact, lived in Canberra between 2014 and 15. I was pursuing a Master's of Business Administration at the University of Canberra. And after that, we moved back at home. And now presently, I am actually back in Australia at the University of Sydney, pursuing a research degree, PhD in linguistics. And the only reason I agreed when Loden approached me was, in fact, I've not been following the news on Australia, nor do I know much about what is happening, except that there's a sudden rush. Sudden excitement among the Bhutanese about going to Australia. But the only reason I agreed was because I have lived in Australia and I have some perspectives. And I thought I could take this platform to share. Thank you.
Lasla. And Jimmy Tsilela.
Kuzambu to all that. Thank you, Loden Foundation, for giving me this opportunity to share my perspectives. In fact, I never thought, the post that I have written on Facebook would be so much viral, that it would be, read and viewed over by many people across Bhutan. Now, I have to write this because as a person who has come here for the last 5 months, I have understood so many things that I haven't, that I've heard or I have just lived from hearing from others about the people in Australia. So the perspective that I have out here is totally different from how things are being told and how stories are being shared in Bhutan. Now, to share something about myself, as mentioned by you, I'm 𝐸𝐻𝐿 𝐁𝐡𝐮, and then I've been teaching for last 12 years. But at some point of time, I had to really think about moving to Australia, because there were some reasons that really bothered me a lot, and those reasons I would later delve into as the session moves on. Thank you so much.
Lasla, thank you. Thank you for making it clear for our virtual audience what your connection to Australia is and why suddenly you find yourself in this panel discussing about this topic. And 𝐸𝐶𝐻𝐿 actually has just raised her hand virtually, and I was actually going to go back to you because you said something very interesting, and I think we'll have a more organic conversation if it is led by opinions and pointers that you share organically. So 𝐸𝐶𝐻𝐿, you mentioned something very interesting, which is those close to me know the reason why I left. And I think to get to the core of the conversation, it's basically why are people leaving, and what are the reasons that are compelling Bhutanese to leave in such huge numbers. And before we even delve into whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, I think it's very important to lay bare the facts for our deliberation. So yes, 𝐸𝐶𝐻𝐿, if you could explain from your personal perspective why you chose to pursue your education in Australia at the height of your career?
I think before that, before going to that question of why I left, I think, like Kinka said, I was very interested when Sangi asked me if I can be a part of this discussion. I was really like, I agreed without even giving a second thought, you know. And that was mainly because initially, you know, that was mainly because, you know, I was like wrestling with this want to be a part of this discussion surrounding the Australian dream. You know, I have followed it. Like Kinga said, I was trying not to follow, but I could not help. So I followed the discussion surrounding Australian dream in Bhutanese paper, in international papers, and on social media. And I was like really trying to be a part of it because I felt that, okay, if I don't share my story, you know, if I allow people who are not pursuing this Australian dream to direct this narrative of the Australian dream, again, I was wrestling between this want and also restraining myself. Okay, when I took a break from journalism, I promised myself that I'll not write anything or I'll not do anything for a while. And that was mainly for my own mental peace and also for my mental well-being. But then as I lock myself in this university office, conducting research, reading academic papers, I questioned the purpose of my life. And then I felt that, okay, maybe I should be a part of it. So I agreed to it. I also feel that it's very important for me to be a part of this discussion, mainly for many young and promising Bhutanese youth in Australia, you know, who really like want to come back to Bhutan one day and serve the country now in their own small ways. Like there is the place I stay right now is called Armidale. It's a very small town in New South Wales. There is this Bhutanese youth. He is, this gentleman is a member of the school council here, and then he wants to pursue his undergrad in computer engineering, come up with something innovative, you know, and then so that he could create some job for, and, you know, address the unemployment. Maybe he could play his own role in addressing the unemployment issue that's grappling our country. And also, I also felt that, okay, I need to be a part of this dialogue, mainly for our many Bhutanese parents here in Australia, you know, their children ace in academics, ace in sports, in state level, not only in their school, but in state level. But they mandate their children to read 𝐴𝐶𝐲, you know, read and write 𝐴𝐶𝐲 every night, every day, so that these children could return back home and serve the country. So I felt that when we, especially on the social media, the narrative on the social media is that, especially through anonymous account, and I believe that the anonymous account holders are people in position or people, educated people, because the kind of posts they make are very relevant. And then these are the, you know, these accounts, they kind of make these allegations, accusations that they kind of make that everyone in Australia, people who are living, who are choosing to follow this, pursue this Australian dream, do not love our country, or, you know, are after the dollar, you know. So when I felt that, okay, I should be a part of this discussion for the youth and also for many of us here, because this narrative is not doing justice to all of us who love our country, who, you know, who means well, who really wants to serve our country in our own small ways. Now, coming back to Ngong's question, maybe I divulge a bit, but coming back to your question of why we live, I think Kinga and Jimmy will have their share. But for me personally, I feel that a lot of us, a lot of Bhutanese, they live mainly because in Australia we can earn and also learn together. You know, the Australian education policy, the rules, regulation, it facilitates that. So you can upgrade your qualification, you can gain knowledge, you get to live in a system where, you know, systematic procedures, where like we don't have to know people or we don't have to use connections to avail services. So I think that people come for that. And also the system here, the education system especially, it facilitates us to earn when we are studying. The other objective, I think a lot of us right now today wants to come to Australia is because the education rules, policies, regulations, again, their objective is to make students successful. Okay, when I started my Master's of Philosophy, I was telling my supervisor, okay, I'm new to this academic, studies. I don't know, I was just a journalist and I don't know much about academic writing. And he would always say, don't worry, your mental well-being is important. As long as you are, you are well and your family is well, you can always complete your studies. So you can, that kind of facilities are there. And also many, like for this dialogue, I tried to, because I got a feedback from one of my friends here that, okay, the panelists here are people in this, mid level or in our early 30s and 40s, maybe late 30s or early 40s. So then I was thinking, okay, I should get this view of many youth. So I asked them why they chose to come here. And many of them say that that's because here you can just, maybe you took arts in your undergrad, year 12 and 11 and 12 in Bhutan, but here if you're interested in nursing, you can take. But in Bhutan, that's not possible, So that kind of, I think the education system here facilitates that, and that I think attracts. And again, the other thing, economy, and everyone is treated equally here. I think that 𝐤𝐴 and Jimmy would, I think they will say it later. But why I left at the peak of my career, and also at a time when I was elected as the JEB president, that was mainly because all I can say is it's not about money. I've been in Australia before. I was in Perth. I was pursuing my Masters of International Journalism to the prestigious Australian Awards Scholarship for 2 years, and I did not take much money, But, I started looking for options when I felt like, okay, doing my job professionally or working hard is not enough in Bhutan, believing that being passionate about journalism and believing in telling the true story was not enough. So I started looking for options. I felt like, okay, I have to leave now. I need to, that when I was not able to perform at my, full potentials, it was impacting me mentally and it was impacting my family members, So then I started, yes. I looked for options.
Yes.
I think, yeah, I can go on, but we can do it later. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, no, interesting, because you mentioned 2 points that I would like to later touch upon as we continue this conversation. The first one being people who are not in Australia directing the narrative of the Australian diaspora, and also the facts about the living reality of being in Australia, the impacts, for example, Bhutanese children there. And but yes, my question was basically on why did you choose such a drastic move at the peak of your career? And I think we've got some very interesting answers that we'd like to touch upon later. But 𝐤𝐴, what about you? I mean, what compels you to pursue your studies in Australia? That as a personal matter, but also rather generally, why do you think people are leaving in such unprecedented numbers?
Mm-hmm. Thank you, 𝐤𝐴. I think, to be very frank, one of the main reasons why I opted to do my master's in Australia 7 years ago was the economic benefits that I could derive from my 2 years of stay. My master's in Canberra was sponsored by one of the private donors of the RTA. And when I sat down with him, he actually gave me the option to go anywhere in the world. And when I told him that the reason I wanted to go to Australia was because I had worked in the RTA then for about 10 years already. And I was barely enough to save. I was just living hand to mouth, salary to salary. And that if I go to Australia and stay there and, in addition to the globally competent master's degree, I could make, I don't know, a couple of $100,000. He was shocked and he instantly agreed. And true to that, I think I was in Canberra for 2 years with my wife. We worked really hard. I worked there for the most part as washing buses, cleaning clubs. And I'm really proud because the difference, the economic benefit that I've derived has really changed the life that I live now. And I'm really thankful for the opportunity that I got to stay in Australia. And now when it comes to what is alarming now, I mean, people have always been going to Australia for over 2 decades, probably from Bhutan, right? After the Australian aid started many decades ago. But what is alarming is why are so many people now rushing to Australia? I really do not have the answers, and this type of stereotyping, like Tashi mentioned, is quite sad actually. Stereotyping people who are going to Australia as greedy, money-minded, and even unpatriotic, which may not necessarily be true. I personally think that the reason people are arriving is mainly, to be really frank, for the economic benefits, and the main reason behind that is, I think, my personal observation is the economic disparity in Bhutan has really widened over the last few decades. When I was growing up in the early 90s in Thimphu, I mean, almost all of us were equally poor or equally rich, so to say. But now, especially with the social media, I think the perceived economic disparity has really widened. And this is, I think, detrimental to the sentiment of unity, solidarity, and harmony in the country. Because when you see someone doing well, when you see one of your relatives or friends who have gone to Australia, and in a couple of years, their lifestyle has changed, they have much more disposable income to support their family members or community projects at home, then, I mean, this would really definitely compel other people to follow. So this is my personal opinion.
And what about Jamila? What's your take on firstly the same question that I asked Kinga and Tashi, which is why did you choose to leave your profession and go to Australia, and why do you think others are doing it?
My answer is simple and straightforward. When I look back 12 years ago, and then when I see just now, I have nothing. I have saved nothing for emergencies and any other things that can come up suddenly. So it's when I think of that now, it really worries me that I'm not in a position to support anybody. So if my life is all about myself, it would not have mattered much. But I have so many obligations. I have families to support, and then I have loans to clear. I need to look at other social obligations. So it is all about, at the end, we need to put food on the table, and that just by being in Bhutan and then doing the work up there. Of course, I'm not saying that I'm not patriotic, because I've seen how much Australia has gone ahead of us, and then I also have a desire that by being here, I can do something back in my country. And then I also have a desire that, whatever I learned from here, I can take it back and then, help my fellow mates or, the nation to reach up to the level that, right now Australia is in. So that is, the reason why I have come here, mainly in order to, as Kinga pointed out, it is for the economic benefits. As a dependent, I have to do many jobs, and then these directly supports not only myself, but I can do a lot of things with this. And right now, if money is not, if money is, if you think that money is not all about happiness, then unquestionably that money gives us the feel good power. It has something to do to make not only our lives, but others' lives also. So mainly for the economic benefits, I have decided that now I should give a think over this and then move to Australia. So that's why today I'm here, and then in a way I'm in a much better position right now. Though I'm out of reach of my loved ones, but I can support them in many ways, in many good ways, in fact. And this also gives me, this gives me a good feeling in me. Now, regarding why people are moving in droves. Now, the Australian rush, in recent times, it has taken in huge droves, and that seems to be quite alarming. In fact, the move to Australia has been taking, but not in that much pace. If you look at the current trend, it seems that everything is happening in a very, very fast pace. So that seems to be very much alarming. Now, why I feel that is happening is now I want to share my own personal experience. I do a housekeeping job, and I have somebody my colleague who is a 22-year-old Bhutanese, and then when I listen to his story, his story is quite, baffling. In fact, I'm surprised to hear that, this could be the reason for him to move to Australia. What he told me was that he did not think of moving to Australia initially, but when his friend's visa got approved, then this kind of close feeling with his friend also prompted him to apply for the Australian visa. So sometimes it seems like peer pressure has also a lot of things to do with the Australian rush. And for the youth, it must be like that, but I cannot, this cannot be the whole picture of what is really behind this one. But in a sense that, the youth affected mostly, the youth, their development is mostly affected by emotions. I feel that, somebody moving out and, somebody close to them moves out, and they also has the feeling, to be along with them. So sometimes I feel that, why he moved out is also is also a valid reason, because we cannot deny, at the initial stage, at the growth of the youth, at this adolescent age, emotions can affect them so much. Now, then there is also another interesting, perspective that I have heard from a very senior colleague at my workplace. In fact, he's a manager in one of the cleaning companies, and then he drives an SUV. Now, once it happened that his company did an audit on the movement of the vehicles, and then it was found that he has drove now personally he was driving around too much, and then he felt that there is going to be an audit memo on him. But at the end, when the audit happened, the company board directors and everyone lauded him and praised him for the mileage that he has driven. And when compared with other managers, he was the one who has who drove the most highest mileage. So in a sense that it seems like that it is all about how things are taken positively. So he has he was quite worried, and I felt that this worry he must have carried it from Bhutan, because usually how we perceive in Bhutan is quite different from how things are being perceived here. He drove the car for so many kilometers around, but yet then he was praised. He was praised. It means that you have driven more, means you have supervised the work very carefully. You have gone around. You have taken care of the company. So that is how things are being taken positively by the people out here. And I felt now he's quite senior, and he's quite senior to me. In fact, he has been living here for around 8 to 9 years. So that is how the move has happened for him. So my own perspective on this sudden rush is that it is the spread of the word that people are doing around so well in Australia, and then also like we need to look back at our country and see the economic situation. So people because we cannot always point out on one particular reason for this rush, because there are so many things. It's a combination of various factors that has led to this rush. For me, probably it should be the economic reasons that people are moving out. Thank you.
Yes, very interesting points. And what I gather from all your answers is basically, the financial benefits are evident, right? But there are other reasons, underlying reasons that also compel an individual to pursue what you have called in this discussion the Australian dream. But if I were to simply, and perhaps that is not the best thing to do, but if I were to categorize the reasons into two for our simple understanding, these are firstly the push factor, so things that are perhaps not ideal, right? And then of course the pull factor, things that are ideal, are working exceptionally well in Australia. So that's there. But King-Ge, you mentioned something very interesting, and I thought we should probably hit that, touch upon that, which is the growing economic disparity or the perceived economic disparity in Bhutan. And we probably now, as we have already touched on, why people are leaving from our individual perspectives. A lot of the media narrative right now, I mean, not to generalize, but most of the media narrative in the mainstream media as well as social media is that it's not a good thing. It's not a good sign, right? But and then so it's only natural that our logical next step in this conversation is talking about, is it a good thing or not? And you mentioned economic disparity, perceived economic disparity being one of the reasons why. But I wanted to ask, with people leaving in such large unprecedented numbers in Australia, don't you think that this is also inevitably going to cause economic disparity? So, for example, you look at remittances that are considered to be one of the main reasons why Bhutanese supporters of people leaving for Australia, America, Canada, say that the remittance that is sent back is of such value, right? But then at the end of the day, if you are to highlight that economic disparity is one of the reasons why people are leaving, don't you think it's creating this inevitable eternal loop where living costs in Bhutan is going to escalate? So yes, what do you think about that? About a solution that seems to prolong the problem?
I agree, Gong. One of the push factors is the high living cost, as you mentioned, and the economic disparity in the country, especially the perceived. I think perceived is even more dangerous than the real disparity, because real disparity, we may be able to resolve it, but once something is perceived, that is, I think, very difficult to erase from somebody's mind. And that is one reason why. I was recently in Canberra for a week to meet my professors at the university and some of my old friends and employers. And the common narrative among my friends is they have been living in Bhutan, working for the royal government or in the private sector for so many years, say 10 or 15 years. And at the end of the month, I think like my own story, all they're doing is living from salary to salary. And now that they're in Canberra or wherever they are, they're able to save much more and give back, support their families back home, support their communities. And there's, I think, like Jimmy mentioned, there's a feel-good factor. You want to, we have always been a very close-knit society in Bhutan. And there's a feel-good factor of giving back to your communities, giving back to your families. And this is also evident, I think, from the remittance that was sent in from Australia during the pandemic, which is a clear indicative that people in Australia were supporting their friends and family back home during this difficult time. But the downside is it a concern that so many people are leaving? Definitely, yes. I think there's no two questions about that. But is it something that you can resolve in the short term? I personally do not see any solutions, because the more people go to Australia, more there's going to be the pull factor. Because once a family member is in Australia, the common practice is then you encourage other family members of their family. So if you look at the trend in Australia of people moving down, it's basically someone has moved down there, someone close to you, and then you get encouraged. And as I think Jimmy mentioned, the economic benefits is quite evident. It's life-changing, and it is not something that we can resolve in the short term. But it is definitely a concern.
Lester, thank you for the feedback. It's very interesting because, as you mentioned, while financial incentives are the first pull factor, but eventually the fact that you have relatives living there ends up so it becomes a very complex situation, and ends up prolonging the problem. And so if you do not have a comprehensive analysis or understanding of what is happening, then it just we might just misunderstand and say it's only because of the financial incentives, which is a very dangerous thing to do, especially at the stage that we are in right now. King-Ge, you wanted to continue, perhaps?
Yes, I just wanted to add, Ngawang, in the last 2 years, as part of my studies, I lived in Berlin, Germany. I was in Australia last month, and now I'm back in Bhutan. And I just wanted to point out, I don't know where the problem is, but I just wanted to point out, for instance, in Germany, Berlin, where I was, the cost of fuel, it's about 1.9 euros a liter, which is about 150 ngiltrams approximately. And then in Canberra, it's about 100 ngiltrams a liter. And in Thimphu, it's also, cost of diesel is also over 100 ngiltrams. But if you look at the minimum wage, and the living cost. The minimum wage in Germany, for instance, is about 1,600, 700 euros, which is 150,000 yltrums. In Canberra, it's about 3,000 Australian dollars, which is also about 150,000 yltrums. But if you look at the cost of living, cost of essential commodities, it's almost the same. So where are we going wrong? So this definitely is going to be a push factor because people can hardly sustain. And like you mentioned, the more people go to Australia, more worse it's going to get. And I think if you look at the cost of real estate in Thimphu, for example, I think it's to a great extent due to the economic powers of people in Australia who are now buying property back home. So I don't see where we're going wrong. But if you look at the cost of essential commodities and the cost of living and how much you earn in a month, I think in the coming 5 to 10 years, more and more people will keep going. And it's really a concern.
Very, very interesting, Love, because as you mentioned, one of the benefits of diaspora, growing diaspora, is also one of the reasons why this diaspora may continue to grow. But moving a little away from the financial benefits, Tashi, you mentioned, that the reason why the second time you're going back to Australia, and you mentioned that the second time I'm going back, the reason is not financial. And I want to know why, because you said, there's a guilt that you will carry throughout, and that you're, that despite being elected as the first female president of JAB, that you feel that you have not done justice to this achievement. And I just want to know why, because for perhaps we have in attendance right now young journalists who are looking up to who have seen your career and are watching this session very intently. So please tell us what was the non-economic reason why you left?
Sorry, it took time to unmute myself. I think I'll agree with all the points Kinga said. A lot of people are living because of the economic situation, because where inflation is soaring and nothing much is being done to address the inflation. A lot of us staying in the urban areas pay like 50 to 60% of our salary goes in as rent. So I think that's the main cause. But like you said, I really feel guilty about leaving the profession at the time when a lot of young journalists pinned their hope on me to be their representative and elected. All I can say is, yes, it's not about money. I had no options. I didn't know how to survive. Practicing journalism was becoming very difficult, especially in these last few years when everyone wants to gag media. You have to please a lot of people, and you have to say yes and drop stories, even when you feel that that's ethically, morally, and principally wrong. I left because the kind of journalism that was being practiced is not the kind of journalism I have really believed in. I, with all my due respects to a lot of hardworking journalists who are practicing journalists, a lot of practicing journalists who are really hardworking, who are trying to inform and educate the nation today. With all my due respects to them, I feel that I left media because media in Bhutan right now is doing stories that people in position wants us to do. And that is not something I always believed in. I'm not a radical. I don't want to do stories out of way. I'm not an activist as such, but I wanted to do a story professionally, tell a story that is true, but that was not possible. I told an expat who was in my office, trying to assess my former office, my former organization, trying to assess and streamline a lot of things. I told that person a few days before I left that I'm not an ambitious person. The life I was leading as a journalist was far better than the life I was leading when I grew up. I grew up in utter poverty, I should say. I did not have many things I needed, forget the things I wanted. So, but then, it was becoming, but then I was forced to look for options when there was no support from the, people, the moment we talk of promoting meritocracy, we talk of promoting professionalism, but that does not happen. And my heart aches whenever I see a young, a very promising Bhutanese professional here in Australia. So I make this point to ask them, I make this point to get in touch with them, ask them why they left. And many told me that they left because, a lot of them told me because they left because of the inconducive working environment, nepotism and favoritism. There are stories of how head of agencies have misinterpreted the transformation initiative and making it difficult for young professionals to function to their full potentials. A lot of us expected, I think, when His Majesty talked about His Majesty, mentioned about 𝐷𝗫 and grit in the royal address to the nation in last December. I thought, yeah, everyone talked about it. There was so much zealous created around it. And I really had huge expectations that, okay, maybe now is the time that, we will put professionalism or meritocracy, we will have something in place, but I'll be very I don't know how to sugarcoat or say it diplomatically. I did not see it being implemented anywhere. And it's really forcing a lot of our good educators, good engineers, good doctors to leave the profession. And for a lot of our people in position in Bhutan right now, I heard that many are saying, okay, the moment you are a person leaves the system, for them it's like good riddance, let them leave. They can be replaced. No one is indispensable. I feel that those in position are saying that because for them, it makes it very convenient, There's no one to question whatever they do, and then they can do whatever they want. But the country is going to lose in the long run. So I hope, hope that our people would recognize this and try to do something about it.
Thank you for sharing your personal experience and of choosing this direction at this point of your life. And I would like to ask Jimmy the same question in terms of but then taking pointers from what you just said, which is the conducive environment and all those push factors that you just mentioned. But don't you think that, and this is not just a question for you, probably Kinga and Jimmy can also answer first, and then but don't you think that the people who are leaving also sort of have a responsibility to correct the system? Or do you think that being out of the system or being out of this situation, you would be in a better position to contribute, right? And not just economically, but do you think that your absence is sending a message, or do you think externally you'd be in a better position? And it's not specific to just journalism as your profession, but also Jimmy, as your teacher, right? You were a teacher and you left your profession to pursue this new dream, right? And you mentioned economic factor being a very important for you. Economic factor or the incentive was the main reason why you left. But many of your colleagues say that the teaching profession is not as optimal in terms of job satisfaction. So don't you think that individuals who are leaving are also sort of contributing to the problem by not being there to address it to begin with? And perhaps Jimmy, if you could answer, and then we can go to Kinga and Tashila.
Thank you, 𝐷𝗫. My own personal view is that, of course, teaching profession, it's not really, it's not that everyone can do. It's in fact, and over the years, if we look at how the system has evolved, we will really understand how much difficult it is. In fact, I really appreciate, and I have my deep appreciations for those who are sticking to their job and then doing it, with full dedication. It's really tough for somebody, to get into teaching, and only a teacher can understand what kind of work they are doing and how much it is really difficult for them to survive. Now, when we look at I being a teacher, and when I look myself from the teaching perspective, of course, it has been really difficult for me to cope up with the system too. But at the end, for me personally, it was only the economic benefits that has prompted me to move out. And then when I also hear from my colleagues, of course, it is, they never talk of, formally they never talk of the economic benefits. It would be always some kind of, like, we are not able to deal with the system. We are not able to, cope up with our bosses, the work environment. All these, I feel, are some kind of, coaching. But whenever, I get calls and, from my teaching colleagues, the first thing they always, they ask me is how much I'm being paid, per hour. So that itself, shows that, they are living on a dire situation. Now, this is, the mid of the month, and I'm already worried for my, fellow mates. They must be digging deep into their purse, and wishing that the month comes to an end soon. So sometimes, it feels that, these are the things, that is coupled, by other various reasons that makes people to leave the system and then go out for other greener pastures. And I tell you, money it wields power, and when money wields power, people definitely go for that. I feel like that. That is my own personal perspective. Listening from our teacher friends.
Lasla. And what about Kinga? What's your opinion on this? So if I were to rephrase the question,
yes.
If I was to rephrase the question, right, apart from the economic benefits, there are so many other factors, right? And obviously, the solution is not to completely abandon addressing these problems. And by saying that, I'm in no way saying that an individual has a sole responsibility to completely change the system. I mean, it's a collective responsibility we all share. But then when the individuals end up becoming a collective, it's obviously of grave concern. So, I mean, so what do you think about that? Given the framework is, we are not necessarily here trying to say this is right or this is wrong, but what we are trying to do here is to understand this complex situation, and that's why I think the session is aptly called Insights into the Bhutanese Diaspora, because the first attempt is to have the people who are members of this diaspora contribute to the narrative first. So I'm in no way saying that like there was this recent article that I read where in the mainstream media that highlighted how Bhutanese in Australia were feeling affected emotionally by the negative portrayal, and because it was sort of this image is being developed where everyone who's leaving is leaving by abandoning their responsibilities. And I think personally that's a very unfair representation. But to look at a problem pragmatically, it is not the part of a solution if people are just leaving because because of the push factors, because it's a system that we have to collectively solve. But what's your opinion on that?
I echo actually the concerns raised by Tashi earlier. She brought about the issue of the transformation and how His Majesty's Royal Address talking about 𝐸𝐺 and transformation in the civil service gave us a lot of hope. And I was one of them too. I was really elated to hear the Royal Address from His Majesty, and I was looking forward to a transformed Bhutan. But unfortunately, I think the narrative recently has been about, I don't know where we've gone wrong. And people who are in position, I think it's time to reflect, because lately it's been about fear. And there's the general conception is, perception is that there's no freedom of speech. The moment you disagree to a certain authority or to an organization, you get targeted. And then I had a friend who actually was on her way to Australia last week, and she was I was chatting with her. She was already in Bangkok, and she said she already feels free. Back in Bhutan, she always felt like somebody was keeping track of her movement. Now, I don't know whether that's true or not, but what I said earlier is there's a perception that there's strong corruption, nepotism, favoritism. Is there really corruption, nepotism, favoritism? I'm not the right person to say so. But then there's a perception, and that's even more dangerous, as I mentioned. There's a perceived corruption, there's perceived nepotism, perceived favoritism. Whereas you go in Australia, you work hard and you make money, and there's nobody to bother about your personal lives. And then I think one of the interesting observations is also that the moment you go to Australia, there's no, people don't look down upon you, whether you are a cleaner or, to do any odd job. And I'm just wondering, is this dignity of labor or, this looking down on people a result of the kind of life they're living and the kind of money they're making? If cleaners and if so-called blue-collar job workers in Bhutan earn as money as they do in Australia, will we still look down on them? Will there be no dignity of labor? I think this is also something that we should think upon.
Lester, very interesting. But with Tashi, obviously, you'll have to become very contextualize it to your profession and your industry that you represent. So to contextualize it, my question is really, as the first female head of JAB, right, of Journalists Association of Bhutan, and then to say that you could not feel that you could not contribute. You felt that you could not contribute to the changing of the system. It's a very interesting insight from you. So if you could elaborate on that.
I think I have to put it in clear context. I became a JAB president when I was already thinking of pursuing this Australian dream for the last 3 or 4 years, and then I got a scholarship. But then I never knew that, okay, my scholarship or my visa, everything is going to come so quickly. So I contested for JAB, mainly because I felt that, okay, I would agree to a lot of things Kinga said. I agreed to contest for JAB, knowing that, okay, one day I would leave. But I thought that, okay, maybe I thought that my visa might take another 6 or 7 or 8 months. And then I thought that, okay, in this period of time, maybe because that was a time when, everyone wanted, I don't know, we felt like everyone wants to gag media, ACC or police or RCSC, everyone refused to give information, and a lot of them said that, okay, that the transformation, okay, the people in the assessment, I don't know whether it's true or not, because this is again, I said, I have to be I have to put it that, because I don't know how to sugarcoat, or I don't know how to say it diplomatically. Those of us in the media who tried to know why our people in position are not sharing the information, they said that, okay, the people who are assessing them advise them not to share information with media. So that was the time when I contested to be the JAB president, because I thought that maybe, we can go and talk to them. And that advice was given to me by one of leading female journalist in Bhutan, who is now retired. She takes a step backward, but she advised me when I told her the challenges of practicing journalist. She advised me, why don't you all go and talk to them, as media? And then I came back, and on our Sunday meeting, I threw that in my organization. And then we said, okay, let's take this as the national newspaper. Let's take this lead and try to ask or try to find out a solution. We are not being confrontational. We just wanted to know why media is being, there's no point if everyone wants to gag media and we try to do our job. So I contested so that I could resolve this. And then some later on, we took it to JAB, and then we thought that, okay, JAB will take it up. But when JAB wanted to take it, it became very difficult. There were so many conspiracy theories created, so I had to give up. And in that meantime, I got my visa. And so, it's like Inga said, there's so much fear created among people who really wants to do their job professionally. Perceived fear, yeah. So it's like you want to do your job professionally. You're not writing against your country. You are writing against the system. Really writing against things that are not, or you are just trying to educate and inform the public as it's your mandate. And likewise, when I talked with a lot of our professionals who have left the system and are now in Australia, they cite similar reasons, you know.
Yes.
And so my request right now is that our people in position, I think, have to be open, have to, you know, even if you want to talk to media, you have to explain to them why media shouldn't do things. Or if you don't want young professionals to do their job, explain to them why, you know. You just, but then the problem is that that's my personal opinion. Like Kinga said, I may or may not be wrong, and I'm not here to make any judgment, but I feel that a lot of people in position right now, for them, people living to Australia, a professional living to Australia is a good riddance. No, so that should stop, because that, you know, a person can be in position only for a certain time, but it's the country and it's nation building, and everyone is equally important. Not just one or two person can become a Bhutanese, you know. Every Bhutanese inclusivity, every Bhutanese sentiment is very important. So I really feel that that should be taken into consideration.
Lasla, a very passionate answer to my question. I think, Jimmy, you just raised your hand. Like, do you have something to add?
Thank you, Ngo. I want to, you know, add something on dignity and equality of the labor. My own personal experiences say that, you know, sometimes it is very wonderful, you know, for you to be called just by your name rather than putting prefixes in front of that. Maybe it's a kind of culture in our country. Like, say, you know, there are so many prefixes that you can name up. I would not mention that, but here, you know, I'm just a cleaner, you know, working in a 5-star hotel, and then the CEO comes and then he says, "Hey, mate," and then, you know, I just answer by his name. So how wonderful it feels, you know, when you are being called by that by that name. You know, it brings him down, you know, equal at my level, and then, you know, the conversation goes quite, you know, frank, you know, and there is no shame for us to feel that, you know, you are doing a petty job, or, you know, he is in the position, you know, the higher position. But I don't know that I don't know how, you know, this kind of things, you know, would really be relevant in Bhutan. Would that be really, you know, would that really be accepted, you know, accepted by, you know, those, you know, who we know as, you know, the people, you know, who have the authority, who have the power. So, you know, sometimes, you know, dignity and equality is also a good thing, you know, irrespective of what kind of jobs you do, you are being referred just by your name, just to hear you being called by your name in itself, you know, is like, you know, you are treated equal to all. Thank you.
Thank you for the additional points about that you just mentioned. But since our topic has why we leave and why we must return, and we can clearly divide our conversation into two. But I think there is a segment in the middle that we sort of uncovered in our discussion that I think deserves its own attention, which is we're talking about why are people leaving, right? But that's the reality for Bhutanese who are in Australia or are planning to go to Australia. But what about children being born in Australia or are being raised in Australia right now? For them, the reality is no longer why we leave. The reality is obviously what does being a Bhutanese mean to them? And obviously, some of you have your children in Australia right now, and they will probably spend an impressionable amount of year living in Australia. So what are your perspectives, or can you give us a general idea of what the diaspora in Australia has opinions they have about this particular issue? And maybe Kinga, if you can answer this.
Yes, thank you. I think this is a very important consideration. Like I mentioned, I was in Canberra recently, and I met one of my former employers, and he told me, he made a very interesting remark. He said, Kinga, the Bhutanese have now become lazy. They are becoming more and more like Australians. And the reason he mentioned that was not that we were literally becoming lazy, but I think people are now taking it easy. People are there. Most of the Bhutanese are there for the long haul. They are not after long hours of work and, you know, as we used to earlier. So So therefore, this is a reason for concern because people are, we might come back at some point in time. I came back, my wife and I came back because I also had a study obligation. My wife was, in fact, by her, her former employer agreed to sponsor her PR, permanent residency in Australia, but we chose to come back. And now this time I went back, not for economic reasons, but for my personal reasons to pursue a higher degree. But then it is really a concern because people might come back at some point, but will be too late. And for children who are born in Australia or who are growing up in Australia, I see a very slim chance that they will return. Let me give you a personal analogy for, base it on myself. I am from 𝐴𝐻𝐾𝐻. My parents live in 𝐴𝐻𝐾𝐻 right now. And I make it a point to visit them at least once a year. It's a very difficult, long journey. It's an expensive journey, but because they are there, I make it a point to visit them at least once a year. But once they're too old to live on their own and they move with, with one of my siblings or with me, I may not have a strong reason to go back to that community. Now apply this to the children who are growing up or who are born in Australia. Their family members are already in Australia. Is there what is that strong reason that will compel them to come back? So that is really a concern, in my opinion.
Lasla, maybe Tashila, your opinion on this?
I think for this dialogue, because I got the feedback that it's bit mid-career or like people in their mid-life, I made a point to talk to young Bhutanese youth here, like Bhutanese youth here in 𝐴𝐴𝐻𝐾. 𝐴𝐴𝐻𝐾 is a small town in New South Wales, and we have about 50 members in the Bhutanese community. A lot of them are youth. And I talked to some of them, and they told me that, okay, they would want to study here because of the different diverse education options, and they would make money and then return home. Their intention is to go back to Bhutan, but like Inka said, it might be too late by then. But I personally would feel that His Majesty's 𝐤𝐴𝐻𝐿 project, where we would mandate our youth to come back and serve in the country, that might be, that might attract a lot of our youth to come back and serve, and then once they leave, maybe they would find Bhutan totally different, like how a lot of our expat friends fall in love with the country when they are not living in it, So I pin my hope there. But then, like, again, I just wanted, if I can, I wanted to add on Jimmy's question of hierarchy, where there's no hierarchy. Can I make a short comment there? No.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so we were discussing about this Bhutan dialogue in here with my friends, and then they were saying here in Australia, if whether you are vice chancellor or whether you are a politician, whether you are anyone in position, you don't get drivers, you won't get chauffeurs. In Bhutan, the moment you hold some position, you would want your driver to open your drawer. You want your driver to go. I know many personal stories of how some people mandate their drivers to go and open and tell the people, okay, my MD is coming, can you do this? That kind of, so this hierarchy has to stop. And if you want to attract our young Bhutanese to come back, we have to stop this system of where, you expect everyone to respect you. We call it culture, but I think that would put a lot of our youth, that would push a lot of our youth away. So if we stop that, and if we stop misusing our national resources, just for example, like a lot of people in position they have no hesitation to allow their office vehicles to drop their children, pick up their children, and that when our youth come back and when they see this, I think that's really going to dishearten them. So we have to stop this if we want our youth to return, I think.
Laszlo, very interestingly, Jimmy, as a teacher, and I'll come back to some of the points you mentioned, Tashi, but Jimmy, as a teacher, having served as a teacher, and what's your opinion on this Bhutanese young children, a new generation of Bhutanese being raised or being born in Australia?
My biggest concern of this Australian rush is not about the current crop of people who migrate to Australia. It is more to do with the next generation who is going to who is going to be born and who is going to be raised out here in Australia. Regarding the sentiments towards the king, the 𝐸𝐸𝐾, the country, and then the people, I don't think it will change much. And their dedication, their feelings for the king, country, it may remain same, but and religion and cultural too, because it can be passed down from the parents to the children. But the bigger question is, will they return? Will they return? Now, having their life adjusted to the Australian way of life, and for that matter, any other culture, outside Bhutan, it will be very difficult for them, to adjust to how life will be back in Bhutan once they return. Now, see, any Bhutanese coming to Australia for the first time, keeping example on myself, we get some cultural shock when we come here. Now, the same people, their children, their offsprings born in their children born in Australia, when they go back to Bhutan, they will receive, they will face, the same cultural shock, of the Bhutanese system. So, the worry is that, they may, face difficulties. And then, the silver lining that I see here is, as Tashi pointed out, the 𝐸𝐸𝐾 project of the 𝐸𝐸𝐾 project of the 𝐸𝐸𝐾. So, as a teacher myself, I'm very much concerned about the younger generation rather than me and other Bhutanese who have migrated to Australia recently, because we have our roots. We are rooted to our roots. We experienced but the younger generation, when they are away, when they do not when they are not living by the experience, then it becomes a question to ponder over.
Lasla, very interesting. So we have naturally progressed to the second part of our discussion, which is obviously on why we must return, and that shows that our discussion is happening. It's moving very well. So the question really is, okay, you've already started giving some answers on the question that I'm about to ask next, which is we know why. So we have sort of uncovered the reasons why people are leaving, somewhere in the plain sight, some hadn't been addressed before, but why will people return, right? And why? So as individuals, why do you think? What are your incentives for returning? What are your aspirations and motivations for returning? And I don't want to make it sound very dramatic, but more like well, obviously, there are so many factors that we listed out, and we all have individual collective responsibilities to address them. Even with the transformation initiatives that you just mentioned here, it's not just about institutional transformation, it's also about transformation of our individual mindset. So on that regard as well, it's an individual responsibility that we have to stand up to. So what are your incentives for returning again, and why we must return?
I will return, and I think a lot of us in Australia will return because that's where Bhutan is, where our heart is, and we want to contribute to the nation building in our own small ways. For me personally, I would want to return because I have to give back to my country and my community. Whatever I am today is because of my country and community. I go and call myself a Bhutanese, I come from this rural area where everyone in my community, helped in educating me. I still remember how some people would give me 1 nultam, some would give me 5 nultam, and some could give me 20 nultam. Whenever I go back to school every summer, and like after every summer and winter break, the women would give me a bangchung of 𝐴𝐸𝐻, some chili powder, some chili, every little thing they have in their home. So I feel that I owe a lot to this community. Yes, by staying in Australia, I send them money. I tell them that, okay, I'll help them bring their children here in Australia because that's what they want. And I promise to do that. But then I also want to be with them, I want to make them feel that, okay, yes, now maybe I have helped them monetarily, but I want to be with them. And the other thing for me, I want to return because I want to grow old as a journalist in Bhutan. I started my career reporting from a very remote area in Tshewang. I would want to return home and do that same thing, do stories from maybe from a very different perspective, but I would want to travel to the remote areas, write about people who will never read what I write, but I want to document the change, document the transition, and document the history. And I think a lot of our young people here in Australia, they say that like I said before, they will return home once they make money. I tell them life is uncertain, but then there is hope, It's not like how it is, the narrative is, portrayed in social media or some mainstream media that everyone is disloyal. They leave the country because they don't want to serve. Every Bhutanese, I think, in Australia wants to serve the country. So we would return to serve the country.
So thank you so much for that answer. One of the main reasons why I personally think that such a discussion is important, like the one we are having here right now, is because it's very important to not have these discussions of national significance in silos. And that's where these perceived fears, these misunderstandings are developed. And that's why, even though this session was supposed to be for just an hour, we've already exceeded by 11 minutes, and we will exceed for a while, I think. And but given the short duration of time, we obviously will not be able to address every aspect of this complex issue, but we are doing, like I said early on, a genuine attempt to understand this because it is of significance to us all. So with that, I just wanted to let the audience know that some of the virtual audience might be thinking that we've already gone past our allocated time, but we will give more space for our two panelists to answer this particular question, and then to move into the question and answer sessions. And I already see a lot of questions on the question and answer tab. So Kinga, your opinion on this, the way forward, what we must do as individuals and as institutions to ensure that we return and that it becomes an opportunity and not a problem.
Whether we would whether Bhutanese in general would return, we would definitely, I think, we have a very strong sense of patriotism towards the country, love for our king. We would definitely return. But when, now, I think, given the change in scenario, when would people return? That is, to me, a greater concern. Because the way I see people in Australia now, like I said, children will find it hard to come back and fit into the system here. Parents are worried that if they come back now, their children may not be able to cope with the system here, cope with the Dzongkha requirement, and there's a concern. So if they're there for a longer duration, by the time they come back, they're way past. We are way past our age to contribute to the country. And then children, as I mentioned earlier, I think there's a very slim chance that many would like to come back. What is the motivation for them? I think it's very important for us to understand. And I think it's also important not just to ask people in Australia whether they will come back or not, but also as people in positions here in the country, as a country, what can we do to get these people to come back? What are the problems? I think we have to genuinely search within ourselves. And my personal observation is, I think we have to have a strong public discourse. The moment somebody doesn't agree with you, or somebody criticizes your point of view, or there's a different perspective to a certain situation, you get there's, I think Tashi mentioned quite succinctly, you get targeted most often. I personally believe that discourse is very important. I've always believed in speaking out my mind. If you go onto my social media, I've always been vocal. And fortunately, I've never been, nobody has even tried to gag me, but probably also because I'm harmless. I'm just a private individual. But then I hear many stories about people being targeted if you're working in an organization, just because they have a different point of view. And this is something I think as a society that we must really work on. And another perspective, I think I just want to make it a point. I think all of us agree that economic benefits is a driving force for us to go to Australia. But of late, what I've heard from my friends is, and I've lived my life, I've enough, but then I want to go to Australia for my children. And recently, I think there was also a report in one of the newspapers that the quality of education in Bhutan is not at par with international standards, and you cannot find jobs. You are not qualified enough to find jobs in the international arena with the kind of education that you get in Bhutan. And that's, again, counterproductive, because that is again going to encourage more and more Bhutanese go out, because they want to go out so that their children will get better education and be better skilled for the job market, not just in Bhutan, but internationally.
That's very interesting that you mentioned that about, not just asking questions about when will they return, but also asking, what can we do? But if I may play the devil's advocate here and reflect that question back, and not just to you, but all the panelists here, and also to the Bhutanese living in Australia, which is, yes, there is a lot of work to be done in Bhutan. Yes, there are so many areas, from institutional structure, operation to individual mindsets. But also, do you think the diaspora in Australia plays an important role? Because as we have discussed early on, remittance being one of the reasons why living costs in Bhutan is increasing. So, for example, the booming real estate market. So, do you think the Bhutanese living in Australia also play a role in contributing to the solutions? So, for example, off the top of my head, I can think of not just focusing on sending remittance, but, for example, diversifying their investments, so to speak. So investing in, for example, ideas of young Bhutan, or, for example, when they do return to Bhutan, not contributing to the status quo. And Tashi mentioned very interestingly that when Bhutanese young people who are right now in Australia return, if they were to see all this archaic hierarchy, all these practices, right, that they would not be happy. But if they were to start their own businesses, or if they were to join an institution, that they would bring with them these lessons that they have learned. So I think that perspective would be very interesting to see. So do you think, as members of the diaspora in Australia, that you also play an equally important role in addressing this problem, right? So any one of you can answer, like maybe Jimmy or Kinga or Tashila. Yes, Jimmy.
On the question of why should one return, and when it has to all do with firstly one's own self-consciousness, being from a Buddhist nation, and our values and virtues all being based on the 𝐷𝗵𝘂𝐁𝐴 and 𝐴𝐻𝐿. If one is not to return, then I think somewhere that guilty conscience has to prick one's own mind. Now we have to look from that point of view, and then and also if you look at on paper the reason that the person always moves to Australia is it's always like it's for the study, but in real there are many other factors for them to move. So on paper they would write like when they develop the SOP, one would write my nation has done so much for me, free education, free everything, free, and then I need to come back, and then I need to serve the community. Now that is where we need to question ourselves on whether are we going to return, are we going to live up to our words that we have actually written on on the SOP. So if we are not to return, then I don't think that it is fair on our part to do that. And then and as a whole we have a larger role to play for the nation, for the development of the nation. Now remittances are just the direct benefits that the nation is receiving. It can change, it can change. It can sometimes go up, it can sometimes go down. It can never be constant. But that should not be a concern. What should be more concerning is that whether people are returning or not, because people who return back, return to the country, they can bring a lot of software skills, software skills in terms of skills, knowledge. And then one example that I can give is nobody can be more time efficient than the Bhutanese working out here in Australia. A whole day's time is broken into pieces, and then it's calculated and then estimated and then done everything as per that time, and then everything gets done. And then that's such kind of attitude, and then the mindset the people develop out here. So such kind of attitude and mindset we develop it becomes habitual in a person, and then this can be, when one carries this back to the country, it can be applied same. So that is where an individual can play a greater role in the nation building process. This can be transferred to other people also. So that is why I feel returning to the country is very important, especially the people living all across the globe.
Lasla, thank you so much. Tashi, you raised your hand, so I will give you this time slot. But before I do that, obviously, as you've seen, we have so many questions in the question and answer session, Mula, and some of you, Tashi, for example, you've already started answering most of them. And I tried to ensure some of the questions that are listed here are also very similar to the questions that I asked. So there are some questions that haven't been answered. We'll touch on them a little bit. But Tashi, you wanted to add something?
I think I thought I'll answer to your question of, can we contribute by staying in Australia? I think the answer is definitely yes. No, by staying in Australia, I am still involved. I try to give story ideas to my friends. I try to suggest them how to do a lot of stories, and I keep telling this, that by conducting research, I contribute to my own nation building, to a lot of discussions in the nation through my research, and a lot of us conducting research, it's on our country. So that's like, we are definitely contributing. But then if a lot of our people in position, if you really believe in transformation, if you are really serious about it, I think it's important that they involve Bhutanese diaspora.
Yes.
Actually, they know whose expertise lies where. So if we can collaborate together, I got this idea from a friend who was an auditor before, a very good professional, but is in Australia now. And he shared this idea of how we can work together, how we can contribute from here. So we can do it if we are being, if you are tasked or assigned a role, we can.
That's very interesting. So with that, maybe we can move to one question. I think there is like one question that perhaps hasn't been touched upon during our discussion, which is, are the panelists looking at the question and answer session? Are you individually looking at the question and answer session, or do you want me to just select one of the questions that hasn't been touched upon, given the constraints of time? Okay, I will just go ahead and pick one, which is, and I think it would be a very good question to end the discussion on, which is, what proactive measures do you think the Bhutanese government should take in response to this growing immigration? So if anyone wants to, yes, Tashi, please go ahead.
I think, firstly, I think I would want to put on record here that the Bhutanese diaspora here in Australia, we have been very successful in preserving our culture and tradition. And while it is very important for us to continue it for our children, and our youth, one thing is, like, if the government, I don't know if it's about stopping the people from coming to Australia, but for those who are already here, I think we already send, our education system has this tendency of sending our Dzongkha teachers to Kalimpong long time ago, and then Delhi, and then even in US today. So if we can have something here, I think now, as Kinga will agree with me, and Jimmy definitely as a teacher, and Kinga as linguist, I think, and someone who is studying language, I think language is very important. And for our national, to teach Dzongkha, if we have someone in place, I think in Perth they have a private school, but not in other areas. But if you have something like that, I think it will really benefit the diaspora. And like I said, I think the government and the people in power should make it conducive for our people to stay back, if not attract or come, make someone else who already left come back. At least those instead of instead of blanketly concluding that, oh, let them leave, no one is dispensable, trying to look into the problem. And then I think then only the solution to any problem, I think, is first recognizing the problem. So I think that's very important.
Last, thank you. Kingal or Jimmy, if you want to add. Jimmy, yes.
Regarding this, the government, to solve. I mean, regarding the question, I think looking back at my own reason to leave, Bhutan and then come here to Australia, because of the economic situation, I had to move. And then, if you look at, many others, it may be same with them also. So for this, what we can really do right now is, we need to solve, rather than blaming the people who are living the country. I think we need to look back and then search the answers within the country only. I think we need to build a resilient economy where the economy can survive from the turmoils of what's happening around. If you look at the remittances, the economy, this remittances, the remittances, is just is a short term. It's just a short term a solution to solve the economic problems, but in the longer run, I don't think Bhutan can depend on the remittances. It cannot be. It can be used only as a leverage to offset some economic problems, especially during the times of emergencies like this COVID pandemic. So we need to build an economic system, a strong economy, where there are opportunities for each and everyone to earn a decent and a basic livelihood, to survive through, and and to help the people around them. So I feel like my reason, economic problem, it is I barely survived through the month, through my salary. And when I reflect back, it seems like it has all got to do with the ever increasing inflation. So this inflation is directly the direct result of the slowing down of the economy. So if to up to some extent, if this economy is the economic problems are solved, then I feel then there can be some there can be some light at the end of the tunnel that we can see through.
Last, and Kingal, any additional points?
Yes, no, thank you. I wish I had an answer to your question, because that would really be worth $1 million. But I would just like to compliment, I think, what Tashi said. And I think the most important to finding a solution is first acknowledging that there is a problem. And then I think we are just 3 private individuals out here discussing this, but then I'm sure there are many experts, economic experts, political experts, social experts. I think we must all bring together these minds and trying to find a long-term solution, because in the short term, I frankly do not see any solutions. If we think this is bad, the damage is done, and then there's going to be more and more people going. The more people go to Australia, the more the pull factor, the stronger the pull factor is going to be. And I really do not see a short-term solution. But for the long term, I think if you're really concerned as a country, we must come together and find long-term solutions. But most important, I think, in my opinion, as I mentioned earlier, the moment we talk about Bhutan and service delivery, we think we are inefficient. There's nepotism, favoritism. And is there really favoritism, nepotism? I don't know. But then that perceived thing is, I think, very detrimental to the growth of our society. I was in Australia lately, and then even there, I think there's delay in providing services, especially in the banks. For example, I had a difficult time getting my bank debit card made. I had a difficult time getting a SIM card. So there's inefficiency in developed countries too, but the perception is the moment you go out of country, everything is, hunky-dory, everything is efficient. And the moment you come into Bhutan, we feel like we are inefficient. That perception has to change. And there, I think the strong responsibility on the government and people in position of power, to change that narrative. How can we change that narrative and work on a communication strategy? Because like we say, justice must not only be done, but it must also be seen to be done. So how can we do to, what can we do to improve that perception? I think that's very important. Because the general, perception is that you cannot do anything without connections here. The moment you have some work in the bank, for example, the first process in your mind is you want to see who, if you have any friend working there. And you go there and you realize that not many people, you could have been in the queue. But then I think general tendency is that whenever we have some work to be done in any organization or any office, you look for someone you know, because then do you think that it's going to be easier to get your work done? So as individuals, as society, as community, I think we have to change that perception, and I think that all of us have a role to play.
Lasla, thank you for that. Jimmy, you had something to add, or did you press the raise hand button by mistake?
Can I add?
Sorry, that I pressed already.
Can I add one? Can I add a small one too?
Yes.
I agree with Kinga on the perceived notion that we have to use connection with Bhutan. I think we really have to change that. Yes, I agree with Kinga that a lot of things are like it takes time in Australia. You don't get it done, but here at least we don't have to use that connection. If you go to the bank, it will delay, but no one, you can't use that connection. When I applied for my children's enrollment authority to enroll, right after sending out the email, the response I got is that don't call or don't pressurize or don't, that's automatic from the New South Wales government. It's automatic response because your calls, your emails, all this pressurizing will not expedite the work. But in Bhutan, we use connections, and because people in position get the facility done much quicker, everyone wants to do it. So if it has to change, it has to change from the top layer of the society.
Lasla. So Lasla. So I think the primary purpose, at least on my end as a host with regard to this discussion, was to really give a genuine attempt to understand what is happening from people who are for whom this is a living reality. And I think we have done that. By no means were we in this virtual discussion to come up with solutions, but at least to better understand the problem, I think is the first step. And naturally, I hope personally that such discussions will follow. And instead of doing these discussions in virtual silos, we will try to be more open with our opinions and to see what role that we play as individuals. So with that, I would like to obviously thank our panelists for making the time despite your busy schedule to partake in this discussion, and to all our virtual attendees present here today. This has proven to be a very fruitful discussion, at least the way I see it, and I think we will continue to provide a platform for discussions that highlight ideas and opinions on development as a platform for right speech and mindful listening. So thank you again for all the viewers.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.